going back to it, as we investigate things like evidence and empiricism and stuff like that, the fact is that what we have is not as much as we'd like to say it is. Okay, I talked about like our ability to measure science and stuff, and basically that's kind of limited. And our knowledge of the physical sciences are very limited in reality. One thing is that you have a lot of people now, even like major atheists, are now starting to think about the idea that maybe there's alien life out there. Okay, and they don't identify what alien life is. Okay, it could be the exact same thing as the pagan gods. Okay. But it'd say, well, maybe there's like alien life out there. Maybe, hey, you know what? Somebody said they saw a UFO. Oh, well, 4 million people said they saw a UFO. Oh, well, hey, they saw a couple of UFOs and the aliens kind of touched them funny. So, like, basically, when you have all these different witnesses, then you have all this different reality that could be or maybe could not be. Okay? Stuff that is, stuff that isn't. And once again, we've not even established an absolute truth yet. Okay, so how do we understand knowledge and truth and reality? You see, the first guys to really focus on this, you had, the different philosophers, and, you had Plato and Aristotle, and then when you get into the Christian era, you have fellas like Augustine, and then later on you have Thomas Aquinas. Now, Thomas Aquinas does something interesting because he notices that he's like trying to represent the Christian world, okay, with his philosophy. And he's also dealing with other philosophers, the ones in the ancient past, okay, the pagan Greeks, and he's also dealing with some of these new philosophers for him, and that was the Aristotelian Muslims, okay. The Muslims were getting into Aristotle, and so he started getting into Aristotle. And he says, okay, well, we agree on some things. We agree there's a God, we agree there's some morality, but they don't like what we say about the Trinity or the Incarnation or the resurrection, those things that have to do with what the Bible specifically says. So he says, okay, well, there's, some things that we can all understand and some things that we can't all understand, that you need to have faith. Well, the word faith is actually kind of funny because it comes from pistos, which it's a Greek word, and basically it's the same thing as belief. Okay? Well, all of a sudden he divided up faith from a concept called reason. Alright, so it's faith and reason. Well, reason and rationality is something that becomes negative, and that's where we get skepticism. Okay? Let's doubt. Alright? So rationality is all based on, this is true if I can, try to doubt it and still not disprove it. And then faith is like, I'm going to, approve this as much as I possibly can. And so it might not even be rational. But belief is actually a mixture of both. I believe I'm on this picnic table, and I believe in angels. Okay? Now, I know one by the revelation of God, information that was given me an outside source. And I know this from my own sensory experience. Okay? I didn't find the picnic table in the Bible. Alright? But I didn't find angels on the picnic table. Alright? They're two different forms of information, but I've received both of them because I believe. Okay? That's what believing is about. It's negative and it's positive put together. Well, so Aquinas splits up the two concepts, and then what happens is you have first an attempt to kind of understand reason without the help of the Bible. And that was a guy named Descartes. And so Descartes kind of says, okay, well, I can't understand anything if I'm overly skeptical, but maybe I can understand a little bit. And so he says, okay, well, how do I know this is true? How do I know that's true? Well, maybe this is all an illusion. Okay, well, I can't accept reality, but what can I really know? Well, I know that I'm thinking. I think, therefore I am. Okay, well, he says he thinks therefore he is, and that's reality. And then a lot of secular historians kind of forget the next part. He says, well, how do I know reality? I know that I am limited. And if I am limited, then there's something that's unlimited. Okay? If I'm imperfect, there's something that's perfect. If I am weak, there's something that's strong. Okay, so what is that? Well, the ultimate is God. Okay, in a basic sense. Now, some people accept this, and some people reject this. But basically, this kind of premise of the transcendent deity is what helps him to understand reality. Now, if the atheist cannot understand reality, if you cannot come up with absolute truth, since you don't believe in absolutes, and then you can't come up with any truth, that's where we get postmodernism. But postmodernism is just saying bullcrap until you realize that you're a nihilist, and then nothing. Okay? Then you can just shoot yourself at that point. Not that I'm saying that because I don't believe that system. But basically, we get to that point, and you have to understand God in order to understand reality. Now, the problem is that a denial of God cannot understand reality. And so therefore, they cannot understand God. Think about it this way. Does God exist? Well, there's only 3 answers that I can think of that you can give to that question. Does God exist? Yes. Okay, we kind of agree on that one. Or, no, A, I believe God is a myth. No, B, God is an incomprehensible topic. We can't even talk about God. Well, the third one is what's used today. Okay, they're postmodern now, and they're starting to kind of talk about how God's incomprehensible. We can't comprehend God. But if you can't comprehend God, how are you going to talk about God? Why have they had, thousands and thousands and thousands, if not millions of theology books out there? Because they're talking about something. I think, therefore I am. They think, therefore it is. So, it's not an incomprehensible subject. Well, is God a myth? Well, what's the definition of God? God is all-powerful. A myth is not all-powerful. God is all-knowing. A myth is not all-knowing. God is eternal. A myth was made up. It's not eternal. Okay? God transcends space and time. A myth is stuck in your head. Alright? God is immutable. You can change a myth. So, a myth is actually just about the opposite of God. Now, God doesn't even exist in the word exist. He's what we call necessarily existent. That means everything depends on Him. Because an evolutionist will agree that we exist in a closed system. So this is the universe right here in that closed system. Alright? But what they don't say is how did that closed system get there? If you have a closed system, who closed it? Who kept it there? Well, that's where you have the transcendent God. Alright? And so basically, when you get stuck at that point, then you have to realize that you're limited. And they say, well, I look around in here, and I can't see here. Well, of course you can't see here. You're not looking out there. Alright? Now, I know this is just kind of like making it seem like it's too simple, but actually that's the whole point, is that it's fundamental to the way we even think about reality, about stuff. I could go in a dozen other directions from here. But basically, if you have nothing to argue with, because that's what you've done, and once you get down to, well, there's no absolute truth, well, then there's no certain truth, because how can you be certain if there's nothing absolute you can hang on to? Well, then there's no regular truth. There's not even the bullcrap that we go with now, okay? That's the philosophy of postmodernism. Bullcrap. I got my story, you got yours. My story is this. My truth is this. My bull. So, you could keep with that, but it's not true. You'll never find truth. You have no purpose. And therefore, you can't even deny it, okay? I can come up with truth because I've got God behind me. I got Jesus. He's the way, the truth, and the life. So I've got truth. You don't have truth. Then you can't really argue.